All right. Today's second review is going to be Transformers 1, which I gave an 8 out of 10 to. Now, I do remember going to see this in theaters, and it is probably one of the better Transformer movies we've gotten over the years, and that's saying something because it was an animated one. But, I mean, it was like an origin story for both Megatron and Optimus Prime. So I think that's why this one kind of stood out and it was unique because we hadn't really ever like gotten something like that before, seeing them at a younger age, and obviously like slowly watching them kind of go from friends to enemies, obviously. But I get both of their like I understand both of their like thought processes, obviously, as to what was going on, like why one of them decided that they were going to go the route they did, and then Optimus Prime was kind of more like um, trying to be like more understanding and go like the justice route. And of course, one of them is obviously going to turn into the bad guy, right? By being like, why would you want that? Like, why would you want anything good for that person that's been lying to you for so long, right? So Chris Hemsworth will go over the cast like we always do. Sorry, Andy, because I didn't say that part. But anyway, Chris Hemsworth, who played Orion Pax and Optimus Prime. Brian Tyree Henry, who voiced D16 and Megatron. So yeah, I guess these were the voices, right? I should probably say that. Scarlett Johansson, who voiced Alita 1. I believe they just called her Alita in the movie, but she had Alita 1 as her name in the credits, or the casting list anyway. Keegan Michael Key, who voiced B-127, who was obviously Bumblebee. It was pretty obvious that that is who he was, but they didn't actually say that in the casting list, which I thought was kind of crazy, because that is who he's going to become, right? Steve Buscemi, who voiced Starscream. Lawrence Fishburne, who voiced Alpha Trion. John Hamm, who voiced Sentinel Prime. Vanessa Lugori, who voiced Arachnid. And then Isaac C. Singleton Jr., who voiced Darkwing. So those were the standout voices in this movie for sure. So when we start, where we start in this movie is, the creator of I believe, yeah, the creator Primus sacrifices life into the planet Cybertron. Right, that was what I don't know why I didn't just say it. Primus sacrifices his life force, in order to create the planet Cybertron. From within that, oh my God, I can't talk now. From within the planet, Primus gave birth to the first Transformers, known as the Primes. Primus created the Matrix of Leadership to assist the Primes. Eventually, the Matrix of Leadership. With the Matrix of Leadership in the Prime's hands, the natural enemy of Cybertron, known as Energon, flowed in abundance. So there's like a pretty big like learning part at the very beginning of the film that is kind of narrated to us. The Matrix of Leadership was lost, causing the flow of Energon to stop, and I guess since then, there's been obviously issues with the planet. Now, Sentinel Prime has always gone out to try to find it, and come back empty-handed each time, which is unfortunate because they're all of the other Transformers are constantly trying to mine enough Energon to keep the planet running, I guess. And they're slowly running out of Energon as it is. There's only so much to mine, right? So they're trying to find some other sort of solution. So, of course, obviously, Sentinel Prime is going to go out and look and see if he can't find the Matrix of Leadership. Now, at the very beginning of the movie, Orion Pax is caught searching through the archives, and that's where we learn all of this stuff about the Primes and Cybertron, and obviously the Energon flow and all of that other stuff. Orion and his best friend D16 are miners. They mine the Energon. Now, they're pretty tight, I guess. Um, it seems kind of at the beginning of the film almost like D16 is trying to keep like Orion in check, right? At the beginning of the film, because Orion kind of seems like the more like wild, kind of loose cannon type, and D16 kind of is like, we should really follow the rules, sort of thing. Not go against anything because I don't want to lose this job, right? Like it's a pretty good, probably high paying job. Um, so they're obviously making good money, right? Like they don't want to lose their status, right? They don't want to be sent back down any other levels. They want to be where they are. Um, Now, Orion, of course, obviously being like the wild card at the beginning of the film, has the idea to go into the Iacon 5000, but they don't have any like parts or anything to make them transform, so they're not going to be able to win the race through like normal means, right? They're going to have to kind of cheat their way through it, which they do. And they almost win. They were in first place at like almost at the finish line, but then whoever they were hanging on to ends up crashing and burning, kind of thing, and then everybody else passes them. But Sentinel Prime actually ends up coming and meeting them in person, sort of thing, and awards them for their bravery and decides to move them up in the world. And of course, when Darkwing catches word of this, he throws them way back down into sub-level 50 with B127, who was a little off his rocker because he's been down there so long. He's kind of like made his own like group of friends, almost like puppets to him, but he kind of says that they're real or whatever. And yeah, obviously, Orion and D16 don't want to be stuck down there, so they try to find a way out. I think they ended up finding like a distress signal they did end up finding a distress signal from one of the primes down there that could lead them to the matrix of leadership. So they decide to go to the surface. They do make it to the surface, of course, and along the way, obviously, they bring Alita with them and B127. So they're kind of like a group at this point. But I didn't really write that down because I thought the main story was kind of about the two of them, obviously. But of course, the other two were there with them the entire time, trying to help them out. It was weird though, because it was almost like the land was trying to attack them when they were on like the little train thing. Like it was almost like the surface was trying to tell them not to go any further, of course. Now, their main enemy was the Quintessons. So I guess the Quintessons had been pushed back, right? They hadn't been there for, I think, like, was it 50 cycles, I do believe, that they hadn't shown up for? Something like that. It was a large amount of time anyway. I believe it was 50 cycles. So yeah, they were being tracked by a Quintesson ship. Now, of course, they didn't know why, like the Quintessons were there, and of course, they didn't think that anybody else probably knew about that, right? But they end up finding the remains of all of the other primes, and Alpha Trion is still able to be woken up after all of this time. So he tells them the truth about Sentinel Prime ending up teaming up with the Quintessons and betraying them all, right? Which is absolutely crazy to think about. They don't want to believe it, obviously, at first, but they can see it with their own eyes. So it's kind of one of those things that you don't want to believe, you want to deny it as much as you can, but you're seeing it with your own eyes. So it's kind of hard to deny, but you don't want to believe it's true. So now the Quintessons are obviously the rulers of Cybertron. And it seems that Sentinel Prime kind of serves them in a way, and he's mining all of the Energon for them, as we see the Quintessons pull all of the Energon into the ship. So, yeah, even Sentinel Prime isn't truly ruling the planet. Unfortunately, it's the Quintessons. Now, when they find this out, of course, D16 starts to slowly go into, like, his little mad descent. Now, they do get their ability to transform back, thanks to Alpha Trion. He is able to give them, what was it he was talking about? The cogs. he's able to give them back their cogs and restart their spark, which is what enables them to transform. So obviously, it was kind of funny when they're first trying to transform, like slowly watching them kind of like fail at it, obviously, because they didn't know what they could transform into, and they were trying to like overthink it, so they were kind of like almost like half transforming while they're like falling down this mountainside, and it was just funny to watch. Now, eventually, it seems almost like Megatron gets the what's the word I'm looking for? Gets the hang of it like first. Like he seems to be the one that's able to like transform pretty quickly and kind of get like it down pat sort of thing. Now he transforms into a tank, so obviously you kind of associate, I guess, that with more evil than the rest of them. Like I think because they're mostly transforming into like cars, right? But Megatron can do, I believe he can do the tank. I believe one of his transformations is also like a jet as well. Now, I believe they can transform pretty much into anything they can see or think, right? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, for the most part, like weaponry wise, they can kind of like conjure up a lot of different things. Um, so Orion starts to build. Oh, sorry. Um, right, that's when they. Okay, so let's go back. Well, I'm getting a little too ahead of myself here. So before all that, before Orion starts building his army, um, yeah. So they discover that the cogs were removed. They get them back. They get the ability to transform. Um, Now, eventually, they are caught by the Cybertronian High Guard. So they were, I guess, the defenders of Iacon, and obviously they knew about Sentinel Prime's, like doings behind closed doors, sort of things. So Starscream was their leader. Now, eventually, we know that Starscream follows Megatron because Megatron becomes more powerful, obviously. And it was cool to see how like Starscream got his voice, losing the fight to Megatron or to D16, I guess we should say at this point in the movie, to D16 at this point, and like crushing his voice box or whatever to make him sound like super funny, like that weird little Starscream voice that he has. I can't do it exactly, but yeah. It was funny to see like his original voice, and then when he gets this like voice box or whatever crushed, to just see that like transformation, and you can see like Orion's eyes kind of like lighting up to see that at this point, you know, he was slowly watching his friend kind of take a different path than he was taking, and it was kind of catching him off guard, I think, because he was watching his friend truly become evil as everything kind of unfolded, right? Now, Sentinel Prime's men are sent in, and a lot of the High Guard are captured, right, along with D16, and he basically tries to face off with Sentinel Prime, like face to face sort of thing. But obviously, he's not quite as strong as Sentinel Prime. Now, eventually, he does get the upper hand on him and is able to kill him, but it does take a lot for Megatron or for D16 to get to that point. Obviously, as he transforms, I think he's kind of like getting into his powers and realizing, just how powerful he can be. Now, the thing of it is, though, in the process of him uh, trying to take the more evil route, he also betrays Orion in the process, and then eventually you can see his eyes change to the red, like to the Decepticon red, and he just drops Orion into like the center of the planet, which is a big twist because Orion wasn't expecting that. Like he grabs him and he goes, I can't remember exactly what he says to him, but he says something to him and then just lets him go. And I was like, oh my god. Like he felt bad for shooting him, but also at the same time he realizes that he just stepped in front of the guy Sentinel that had been lying to them the entire time. So at this point, D16 is just like, I'm done. Like, I can't take any more of this. You're not going to follow my path, so I'm going to make my own. Now, when Orion goes into the middle of the planet, he is actually given the Matrix of Leadership and becomes Optimus Prime as D16 claims himself as Megatron. Now, I think they had their own little fight too, obviously, and then at this point, Optimus tells Megatron to leave, and of course, he kind of threatens that this won't be the last time they see one another, sort of thing. Now he does banish him from Iacon, and then we get like a little post-credit scene where the Decepticons are born, so they are coming back. So I don't know if we'll ever get like a second animated film where the two of them fight, or this will just be kind of like this will just become like a one-off of the origin story of how they became Optimus and Megatron. But either way, it was a good movie. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, it is on Prime. I believe, yeah, you do have to purchase it, unfortunately, but I don't know where else you could possibly watch it for free. So that's what I did. I just bought it because I have Prime anyway and Paramount Plus, so it was on there. It was fairly cheap. I believe it was like $15. So not an extremely expensive movie. It's cheaper than going to the theater. Not that it's in theaters anymore anyway, but yeah, yeah, $15 for a movie isn't really that much considering even on like Blu-ray or DVD it would probably almost be double that. So there you go. Anyhow, that is it for this review. I will see you guys the next one. Bye bye for now.